Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Whining About Herstory, a podcast where two gal pals chug wine and talk about women from history that you may not have heard of. I'm Kelley.
I'm Emily, and I'm freaking the fuck out right now.
I have an adjustable desk and I accidentally hit it with my elbow, and I don't think it was going so well.
It was rising, and I thought I was falling because I'm not sober enough to deal with, like, things moving around me. So,
yeah, it was a bit startling. Anyways, let's jump into our wine for today. I picked the Ame Du Vin Rose, which is an import from France. It was a little out of our normal $10. It was $13.99. It says, expressive notes of fresh apricot, citrus, and jasmine flower delight the senses, yielding an exceptional rosé with balance and length.
Here's my question. Where was all of that?
Yeah, I agree with Emily. There wasn't a ton of flavor until you, like, ate something sugary beforehand and then took a sip, and then you're like, oh, there it is.
Thank God for Sour Patch Kids. But, I mean, we've been drinking for about an hour now, at least 2 episodes of Veronica Mars, so this has definitely gotten us where we want to be, so I'll clink to that.
There you go, to being where we want to be.
All right. Clink! Alrighty. Yeah, it's like... It kind of reminds me of the LaCroix of wines, where it's like, no, this was made while sitting next to a basket of strawberries or apricots or whatever else the fuck was supposed to be in
It's not
here.
bad. It's just very bland.
Yeah, I mean, if you like kind of bitter and wine tasty, go for it. I'm not going to judge you, but I mean, maybe I just basically am asking for a juice box that gets me drunk.
I mean, it did have like the best bottle because it was like a real sexy bottle, and then it had a glass cork, which was super cool.
Oh, can we talk about this? So we actually put this on our Instagram story, so go check it out. This is our first glass stopper.
It's literally the first glass stopper I've even seen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we both popped our cherries with this glass stopper here. Not that that's an actual thing, but I'm going to say it.
Although I will say the video I missed was when Emily was pouring her second glass of wine. She goes to pour, and I have to look at her and go, hey, Em, the stopper's still in the bottle.
It's clear. I couldn't see it. So clearly this is a design flaw and we should stop making them.
It was a good moment, and I wish I would have taken a photo before I said anything, but I didn't.
It was pretty great. So I think we're going to just jump in here. We got our wine. We got some Sour Patch Kids.
Yes, that was a birthday gift to me from a friend.
Oh, that reminds me. I think it was when we recorded episode 3. Because we record about a week ahead, so I have enough time to, like, be a bit too busy and stressed out to edit. But we recorded episode 3 the night before Kelley's 28th birthday.
Woot woot.
And I meant to give a shout-out, but then wine got involved, and I got so amazed by the incredible women we were covering that I forgot the incredible woman sitting right next to me. So happy belated birthday to our dear Kelley, because I fucking love you.
Thank you.
I did post on social media, though.
I did see that.
So
I'm going to be covering 2 women today that are both militarily based, which I know I kind of did last time, but the first one I'm going to be covering is Mariya. I'm sorry, this is super Russian. So it's Mariya Oktyabrskaya.
that was actually pretty good.
Like, there's a bunch of consonants shoved together with no vowels in the middle, so I was like, I don't know how to say this.
That you said that confidently enough where I'm like, yeah, you know what you're doing.
Yeah. And this was sent in to me by another Emily in my life because I like to surround myself with them. My sister-in-law,
best.
Emily. So shout out to her.
Thank you, Emily.
This woman is also, her pseudonym is the Tank Driving Widow.
Oh, shit. That's badass. Can that be my screen name?
Sure.
I mean, I've never been married.
I don't care.
And I don't drive a tank, but I mean, we all lie on the internet, don't we?
First off, I'd like to also say that there's a super neat website out there called rejectedprincesses.com.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Which is actually super cool. So some of my information came from them, and I'd recommend you guys looking at it because there's a ton of neat women on there, and I probably will be using them more often from now on.
Is it like princesses that are way too badass for Disney to use?
Yes, basically.
Love it.
Okay, so into the story. So it's estimated that about 800,000 Soviet women served in the Red Army during World War II, mostly in the anti-aircraft battalions where they wouldn't be on the front lines and, you know, somewhat protected from a lot of the fighting. Some of them served right in the thick of it, combat missions, nurses that ended up on the front lines, stuff like that. And although the Soviets did need as many soldiers as possible, because this is World War II.
It was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, a little bit.
It escalated pretty quickly.
Even during the most desperate times, not every male soldier was thrilled to be joined by women on the battlefield.
Okay, so it's like, we need everyone we can, except if you have tits.
Right? And Mariya is one of the Russian women who did not want to watch from the sidelines. And she was also one of the women that would make these men eat their words.
Oh my God, I'm already in love with her.
Yeah, she's pretty great. Okay, so she was born into a poor Ukrainian family on the Crimean Peninsula. I'm not exactly sure where that is.
Crimean. I don't know. If you say it with enough gusto.
She was one of 10 children, because as we've said before, what else is there to do?
Especially in Russia. During World War II, it's just, well, you watch the snowfall, you fuck your wife, you get some potatoes.
So before the Great Patriotic War, which is the Soviet name for the Eastern Front of the Second World War, which I love.
I didn't know that
because
had its own name.
That's when, well, in Russia, because that's when the Germans started invading Russia in the winter, which was a terrible idea, which they soon figured out. But, you know, so that's why the Russians or the Soviets call it, you know, the Great Patriotic War.
I love it. I love it. It's so basically the great patriotic freezing of the Germans because they shouldn't have fucking done this.
Right, because they're idiots. So she worked in a cannery as she grew up, and then a telephone operator. In 1925, she married a Soviet army officer, Mariya Oktyabrskaya. So that's where her last name came from.
Okay.
That was not her original name. That would be a little weird. So when she married him, she began to acquire an interest in military matters. She became involved in the Military Wives Council, and she trained as an army nurse. Her husband, it's thought her husband taught her how to use weapons and drive vehicles, which back then a lot of women in Russia didn't drive vehicles, so it's pretty cool. I have to imagine that their dates were pretty badass. Like, oh, I'm going to teach you how to shoot.
Hey, you know what? Instead of just sitting at a Netflix and chilling, what if I teach you how to fire a gun into some poor Nazi's face?
Yeah, you know.
Oh my God, like that's so romantic.
It's so romantic.
And that's when I knew he was the one.
She did say, quote, "Marry a serviceman and you serve in the army. An officer's wife is not only a proud woman, but also a responsible title."
I think that's very sweet, because even in the military today, it's not just the soldier serving, the whole family serves.
Oh, yeah. So when the Eastern Front started in World War II, Mariya was evacuated to Torsk in Siberia.
Oh, super fun.
You know, probably along with a lot of other women and children.
A little vacation.
Right?
A little vacay to Siberia, next destination.
Also, I totally said that. I said Torsk, but it's an M, so it's Tomsk.
Oh, Tomsk.
My bad. Still in Siberia.
Okay, I'm just going to put this out there right now. If you're listening and you knew that she was wrong, props for you. Right? Everyone else, you can't get mad at us.
So she learned that her husband was killed fighting the Nazi Germany forces near Kiev, and so he died in August 1941.
Fuck.
The news took 2 years to reach her.
What?
I mean, it's Siberia, but, you know, also fighting, and yeah, so the news took 2 years, so she didn't find out until 1943.
Oh my God. So for 2 years,
she didn't know.
Oh God, I hope he comes home. Fucking A,
right?
That is awful.
The news angered her greatly, and she became determined to fight the Germans for vengeance of her husband's death, which, good on you, girl.
That's a beautiful way to cope with the loss of a loved one.
Right?
I'm going to take vengeance, and it's going to be bloody.
Right? So she sold literally all of their belongings, like everything she owned, in order to buy a tank. She
bought her own fucking tank?
She then wrote a letter to Stalin saying, "My husband was killed in action defending the motherland. I want revenge on the fascist dogs for his death and for the death of the Soviet people tortured by the fascist barbarians. For this purpose, I've deposited all of my savings, 50,000 rubles, to the National Bank in order to build a tank. I kindly ask to name the tank Fighting Girlfriend and to send me to the front line as a driver of said tank."
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah. So she's basically like, Stalin, this is what I plan to do. You better just be okay with it.
Yeah, Stalin, who's probably killed more people than Hitler, you need to get on board
right?
because I'm doing this regardless.
So he wrote back actually fairly quickly and agreed.
Hey, girl, you do you.
Right? Part of it was that his state defense committee advised him that this move would have a positive effect on morale, and, show the population that stuff was being done and, like, make everyone happy that, like, oh, look, like, there's this woman who's fighting for her cause and, like, going out there and killing Nazis.
Well, and especially in a time where they needed every single person they could take.
Right? And she's like, no, I'm buying my own tank. Just send me.
Yeah, and showing that a woman of all people is taking charge and going to get shit done.
To protect the motherland.
I'm sure a lot of women are nudging their husbands and boyfriends. Why the fuck can't you buy your own tank, you little bitch?
So it wasn't uncommon, apparently, for citizens to donate money to, the Red Army and to the production, like, of the Soviet Union and everything. But it was unusual for it to be a woman. Usually those donations obviously were made by men.
Yep.
So the tank she bought and drove was a T-34 medium tank. There will be a picture of it up on the blog.
Okay, because I don't know what any of
neither
that
do
means.
I. It looks like a tank to me. I really don't know the difference.
Jared would be so ashamed of me right now.
Yeah,
Thank God he doesn't listen.
So by this time, she was 38 years old, and she took part in a 5-month tank training program immediately after she bought the tank.
Okay.
This was actually super unusual for tank crews in general, at least at this time, because most of them were rushed straight to the front line with minimal training because they just needed people.
Just figure it out. Just get in the tank. It's very intuitive.
Well, and tanks are not just one person, because there's someone, like, on the gun, there's someone driving, like, there's, like, a crew. I don't know how many people it is, but I know it's more than one.
Yeah, I think it's 3, maybe 4. It takes a village to drive a tank.
There you go. So she completed her 5-month training, and she was posted to 26 Guards Tank Brigade, part of the 2nd Guards Tank Corps. So that was September 1943, and she was assigned as a driver and mechanic of her tank that they did name the Fighting Girlfriend, which they emblazoned on the turret of her tank, which you can see in the picture, but it's in Russian, so...
Just take our word for it. It says the Fighting Girlfriend.
It says the Fighting Girlfriend.
I kind of want to get that tattooed on me.
Right?
Like
a little picture of a tank that says the Fighting Girlfriend.
I love tattoos, and I love the stories behind people's tattoos. I've never had anything that, like, I want on me so badly that I would get tattooed. Kelley has, like... Two currently. Tattoos now. Like, within the past year, you've been talking about getting one of those tattoos for years, and I'm not gonna lie, I'd kind of been like, I think this is just gonna stay in the someday category. And then all of a sudden she texts me, by the way, I got a fucking tattoo. And I'm like, okay, excuse me, where was I?
Yeah.
Rude.
Sorry. I'm getting another one at the end of April, too.
Oh my fucking God. Okay, apparently I just need to, like,
jump on this bandwagon.
The Fighting Girlfriend will be my next tattoo, and I'm gonna get married and it's gonna be just an awkward tattoo.
No, it'll be great.
Well, I mean, she was married and she still named
she was
the
a
Fighting
widow
Girlfriend.
at this point, yeah.
Yeah, all right. She's everyone's girlfriend. She's a friend to all.
Exactly.
Love it.
Girlfriend.
You go, girl.
Yeah, there you go. So at this point, many of her fellow tankers in her unit saw her as a publicity stunt and a joke, and they were not super happy to have her there.
I get it.
Right?
But I don't agree, but
they
totally
probably
get
didn't
it
realize she actually had more training than they did.
Well, and especially it's like, okay, this woman is anyone coming in off the street who just bought their own tank.
Right? They're probably
I'd be like,
the fuck?
Yeah, fuck you too.
Right? So though they were initially skeptical, she quickly proved that she could drive and shoot and throw grenades, and that she had all of these skills that her late husband had taught her.
Girls, get you a man who can treat you nice on the street and then teach you to throw grenades.
Right? Not in the sheets, though.
No, not in the sheets. Grenades are terrible in the sheets.
Yeah, no. There will be no sheets after that.
No, unless it's like a grenade-shaped
like
pocket pussy?
Lube? Like a bottle of lube that's grenade shape?
I don't know.
Are
we thinking too hard about this? Are there grenade-shaped sex toys? Is that a thing?
Someone let us know.
Should we make it?
Yes.
Is this our business?
We'll monetize it. It'll say the Fighting Girlfriend on the grenade.
That's going to be our brand. TM, hashtag, what's the word I'm trying? Trademarked. Trademarked here, now.
Yes. Copyrighted.
That's it. That's the word I was trying to think of.
Patented? There you go.
Thank you for being here for me. Empowered women, empower women.
There you go. So on her very first outing in the tank in Smolensk on October 21st, 1943, so she's only, she got finished with her testing, a month ago? She and her crew outmaneuvered the German soldiers, killing around 30 of them, taking out an anti-tank gun as well as multiple machine gun nests. They shelled her tank, immobilizing the fighting girlfriend. She got out in the middle of the fight and started repairing her tank.
So people are shooting at her and she's like, oh, just let me get out here and
fix she's
this.
like, oh shit, my tank's down. I gotta fix this. She then got back in and proceeded to kill more Germans.
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah. At this point, she was promoted to the rank of sergeant for her feat and bravery.
I mean, she better have been.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty fucking badass.
So after this fight and, during her next chunk of time in the army, she wrote a letter to her sister describing her time in the war. She said, and I quote, "I've had my baptism by fire. I beat the bastards. And sometimes I'm so angry I can't even breathe." End quote.
I like to think she's like, I don't even give a shit anymore. Bitches, come at me.
I assume she thinks she's not going home because she sold literally everything she has.
Okay, that...
She probably doesn't care. She's like, my husband's dead. I'm going to go try and avenge him. And if I die doing it, I'm okay with that.
This is still badass, but that also really bums me out. This is almost a suicide mission she's taken upon herself. Because she's like, yeah, I mean... My husband's dead. These fucking
they didn't have
Nazi
any children.
Bastards are wrecking my country. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, that's almost the most dangerous kind of person, someone who has nothing to lose and is willing to just throw themselves head into a situation.
Well, at least she was, good at it. She wasn't, she was a little bit reckless, but she wasn't, suicide, bombing, reckless.
She wasn't putting anyone else in danger. She was just going out there and being like, come at me, bro.
Right.
Come at me, bitches. I'll fucking wreck you.
Right. It's the whole no man can stop me. I am no man.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God. Was that from Wonder Woman?
No, that's from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, shit. Oh. I mean, Wonder Woman made me feel the way this girl is making me feel right now.
Oh, I'm glad. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my God.
I know.
What?
Shut up.
What?
Shut up. We're moving past that.
No, we're not. This is what we're going to watch next time when we're getting ready to record.
All right. So a month later on November 17th, Mariya took part in an assault on the German positions near Nove Selo, which is a town the Germans had captured from them. However, a German artillery shell exploded against her tank's tracks, halting her advance. So her tank tracks got broken.
Oh, no.
Mariya and a fellow crewman jumped out to repair the track while other crewmen gave covering fire from the tank's turret. So there's at least 3 of them.
Okay.
They did eventually fix the track, and her tank rejoined the main unit several days later. So she got it going again.
I wish I knew more about tanks, because these tanks are getting, blown up. And they're like, oh, just let me get out and fix it.
Yeah, and I don't think that was super common.
Yeah.
So 2 months later, so now we're January 1944, Mariya fought in another night attack as part of the Leningrad-Novgorod offense, but the battle would prove to be her last.
Oh, no.
The battle took place in a village of Shvedi near Vitebsk, which doesn't help me at all.
Vitebsk?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just 10 kilometers south of Hoxba. No, I'm making things up. Yeah. I'm being terribly offensive, and I apologize.
So she drove her tank into the German defenses and destroyed resistance in the trenches and machine guns nest. Her tank crew and her also destroyed a German self-propelled gun, which I don't know what that is, but that sounds interesting.
It sounds badass, so I'm glad it got destroyed.
Right. Subsequently, the tank was hit by a German anti-tank shell, again in the tracks, and was immobilized. Mariya immediately got out of the tank and began to repair it amid fierce small arms and artillery fire. She actually managed to repair the track, but unfortunately was hit in the head by shell fragments and lost consciousness.
Oh, fuck.
After the battle, she was transported to the Soviet military field hospital in Fastov near Kiev. I do know where Kiev is, so that was
I've
actually
heard of
helpful.
Kiev. I couldn't tell you where it is
Not
on
like
the map.
chicken Kiev. Kiev the city.
Oh, I didn't realize chicken Kiev was a thing.
Oh, it's delicious.
Kelley is more culinarily sophisticated than I am.
So she went to this field hospital where she remained in a coma for 2 months before finally dying on March 15th, which is one day before my birthday, which is really sad.
Oh no, why did it have to tie in that way?
I know, right? The following August, Mariya was posthumously made a hero of the Soviet Union, which is one of the highest honors you can receive. And she is buried in one of the nation's most sacred cemeteries. And she was the first of the very few female tank drivers to be awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union award, which is why I did her. Plus, I mean, I'm not going to tell Justin this, but, you know, if he ever went to war and died, I'd probably go avenge him.
Yeah.
Mine would be like the fighting pug or something.
The fighting pug. The fighting, oh fuck, what's a herd of pugs called?
Grumble.
The fighting grumble.
Grumble of tanks.
Grumble tanks.
I'll buy 3 tanks and it'll be Grumble tanks.
One's named Dory, one's named Navi, one's named Atari.
And the unit is called Grumble tanks.
Yes. Oh. That's how the military works, right? You pay for it, you get to name it.
Yeah, right? I'll just write a letter like she did.
Love it.
So, yeah, I felt that story wasn't long enough, so I did someone else. But
extra
it's
credit.
Similar themed. So this woman's name is Sarah Emma Edmonds. She was born in December 1841. So Union soldiers during the Civil War knew a comrade known as Franklin Flint Thompson. But in reality, Thompson was really a woman, Sarah Emma Edmonds.
I'm trying to think of a clever acronym for Franklin F. Thompson.
Yeah, Franklin Flint Thompson.
Freaking female tools. Like, they should have known. Everyone knows FFT means freaking female tools.
What are those dildos? That's all I can think of when you're saying freaking female tools. I'm like...
No, like, she's a freaking female, tools.
Okay,
like, calling them tools for not realizing... I'm sorry. That was way
bad.
That was a long walk.
Let's just move on.
It was a long walk for a bad joke.
So she was one of the few females officially known to have served during the Civil War, because obviously, you know, some of the females didn't reveal themselves, so it's hard to know.
Wasn't there a census? Okay, check here if you're a man, check here if you're a woman pretending to be a man.
Check here if you're just a woman.
Check here if your blood type's A.
So, like I said, so she was originally born in Canada, so she was not originally a United States citizen.
Oh, Canada.
But in 1857, so she was born in 41, left in 57, so 16 years old.
I'm going to take your word for it because I refuse to math.
She ran away to escape the abuse and arranged marriage set up by her father. She changed her name to Edmonds when she left instead of Edmondson.
Because she's not the son of anyone.
In her memoir that she wrote later, she wrote that her family was overprotective, making her feel, quote, sheltered but enslaved, and that her father was, quote, a stern master of ceremonies.
That's like a really eloquent way to be like, my father's an overbearing dick.
Right. So she hadn't received much education growing up. And so when she ran away, she went to Moncton, which was another Canadian city. So she's still in Canada at this point. For about a year, but she was fearful that her father would discover her and make her go home, you know, and she'd end up back where she had left. So she decided to immigrate to the United States. In order to travel undetected and secure a job, she decided to disguise herself as a man because it was easier, like, to get a job and stuff at that time.
Which is bullshit.
Right. So she took on the name Franklin Thompson.
Freaking female.
And she found work in Hartford, Connecticut, traveling as a Bible salesman.
She just go door to door?
Yeah, she was a door-to-door Bible salesman.
Like the Mormons. Have you heard the great word of Jesus yet? Have you heard the word of our Lord and Savior?
back then it was probably a lot easier to go door-to-door selling Bibles than it would be now.
This is true. I get so freaked out when someone rings my doorbell and knocks on my door now, because I'm like, I'm not expecting anyone. Yeah. Who the fuck is coming?
It's
like, I have what?
I said it's the Mormons. No offense.
They ruined it for everyone. But I had, like, the AC and heat guy come by because I had a giant ice dam fall off and nail my AC unit.
Yay, cold winters.
Yeah, Minnesota's a great place to live. Everyone should live here.
Don't actually live here.
But I was home and he knocked on the door and I'm like, what the fuck? Immediately I'm like, lock this shit down. I'm going to get my kitchen knife. I'm ready to throw down.
You try and like sneakily peek out the window to see if you know the person.
And then Jared is like, oh, it's probably the AC guy. I'm like...
And you're like, oh shit, I forgot about that.
Oh, fuck you and your logic. I'm freaking out over here. And so I like grab my little chihuahua who's barking his fucking nuts off. And I go to the door.
Wait, he still has his nuts?
Well, not anymore because he barked them off. That's how they neuter them, right? They just like freak them out until they bark their nuts off. Science. But yeah, it was just the AC guy. I was like, oh man, I was ready to like, you know.
The panic is real.
I was ready to fight and you're here to help me.
I promise you I won't stab you with the kitchen knife.
I mean, now I won't.
Right. So by the start of the Civil War, 1861, Edmonds was boarding in Flint, Michigan, and she felt compelled to join the military out of a sense of duty. She wrote, quote, I was aroused by my reverie by a voice in the street crying, New York Herald, fall of Fort Sumter, President's proclamation, call for 75,000 men. This announcement startled me while my imagination portrayed the coming struggle in all its fearful magnitude. It is true, I was not American. I was not obliged to stay here during this terrible strife. I could return to my native land where my parents would welcome me to the home of my childhood and my brothers and sisters would rejoice at my coming. But these were not the thoughts which occupied my mind. It was not my intention or desire to seek my own personal ease and comfort while so much sorrow and distress filled the land. But the great question to be decided was, what can I do? What part am I to act in this great drama? I was not able to decide for myself, so I carried this question to the throne of grace and found a satisfactory answer there. That's what she wrote in her memoir.
That is fucking beautiful. And I feel like anyone who feels the call to serve can identify with that.
Right?
Because it is so much easier to stay home where you're familiar with everything.
Especially when your home is in a different country where you can literally just be like, no, I'm not dealing with any of this shit.
Oh, she doesn't even have like the, you know, kind of patriotic
she's from Canada.
sense of duty, you know? And that's really incredible. And thank you to her.
Right?
Because that's beautiful.
So she enlisted in the 2nd Michigan Infantry as a male field nurse. Extensive physical examinations were not required for enlistment at this time, so she wasn't discovered. And her disguise was a complete success for nearly a year. So I'm going to go into that now.
364 days. Yeah. And then they were
One day!
They were like, why don't you ever just like pee in the bushes like the rest of us? Well, it's complicated.
Although her and her comrades, did not participate in the Battle of the First Manassas on July 22nd, they were instrumental in covering the Union retreat from the field. She stayed behind to nurse wounded soldiers and barely eluded capture to return to her regiment in Washington. She continued to work as a hospital attendant for the next several months. In March of 1862, not 1962.
We're jumping
1862.
Way ahead. She's a time wizard.
She was assigned the duty of a mail carrier for the regiment. And later that month, they were shipped out to Virginia as part of General McClellan's Peninsula campaign. I actually know some of these people in like places, and I'm like, American history.
Look at you being all smarts.
So from April 5th to May 4th, they took part in the siege of Yorktown. And it was during this time that supposedly she became part of espionage missions. There's kind of some, you know, back and forth of, well, there's no like real proof of her doing this, but there's no proof to say she didn't, you know, so it's just in her memoirs what she wrote.
Well, let's be fair, they don't document spy activity heavily. Activity? Yes, I said that word right.
Don't worry. I would have said something.
But yeah, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of records like July 24th, 18-something, so-and-so went into the field to spy on the Confederates.
Someone I was going to do instead of her is someone just known as Agent 355, but I felt like there wasn't enough material there to do anything because they don't know her name. It was a her.
It was a woman?
Yeah, because the code that they used for this specific spy ring was called the Culper Cipher. And 355 in the Culper Cipher literally means lady.
Oh, shit.
But they don't know who she was. And so, like, everything was speculative. And I'm like, most of the story would be about, like, the men in the spy ring. Mm-hmm. And then what they think she did. And I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. But I did want to bring her up and say that there was, during the American Revolution against the British, there was this badass spy simply known as 355.
Wow, honorary shout out.
Yeah,
I mean, we have Dr. Baker, I think it was, that I mentioned in episode 2.
Yep.
I didn't feel, I might actually be getting their name wrong. I sincerely apologize. Go back and listen to episode 2 to figure that one out. But I couldn't identify whether they were a woman posing as a man out of necessity, or if they genuinely were a man. And
this one was a woman who chose to act as a man.
I mean, yeah, but honorary shout-outs all around.
All around. So like I said, there's no definitive proof. But in her memoir, she details several exploits behind enemy lines. One of her alleged spy missions was a Southern sympathizer named Charles Mayberry. Another was a black man named Cuff, for which she used silver nitrate to dye her skin and used wigs.
I was just going to ask you, how does a Canadian pretend to be a black man?
I don't know. And then yet another was so she was a woman pretending to be a man who then pretended to be a woman.
This is like Tropic Thunder.
Yeah. One of her other espionage identities was Bridget O'Shea, an Irish peddler.
That's so more believable.
All right. That one was probably super easy for you.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm going to take off this girdle. This is great. Let the boobs free.
I love it. She bumps into someone. Oh, sorry, boot that. What did you just say? Oh shit, I can't do an Irish accent.
I know, it's like, I was going to try and cover you there, but...
If I was a more confident woman, I would do an Irish accent, but I'm not going to discredit or disavow the entire nation that way, so...
We're just going to move on.
Let's just pretend I did, and it was great.
Yeah. In her memoir, she writes about her first spy mission, which involved that silver nitrate and wigs to play as a slave named Cuff in in Confederate military camp. So she was part of the Union? The North. She was part of the North.
The Union.
I was like, I'm pretty sure they were called the Union.
Yep, the Union and the Confederates.
Okay, good.
American History 101 here.
Wine 101.
Wine 101. Wine makes you dumb.
So she posed as a slave in the Confederate camps.
Mm-hmm.
And while she was there, she helped build ramparts and worked in the kitchen and, had to do all the slavey things.
The slavey things.
But she also eavesdropped on conversations. And when she escaped, when she was assigned as a Confederate picket, which I don't know what that was. Maybe it was like digging trenches or something.
She put all the Confederate picket fences.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
When you put them all together, they had the Confederate flag, and it was all very tacky.
Yeah. Well, she escaped during that, so it never got finished. Okay. So it's fine. So she went and told General McClellan. Irish names.
McClellan. See, we can't do Irish. We're terrible at it.
So she went and informed him of their troop size, their weapons, and the location of Quaker guns, which I guess were logs painted to look like cannons at a distance. So you didn't know that they weren't cannons. So she was able to tell them oh no, this isn't a real cannon. You don't have to worry about it, which is pretty sweet.
Oh, they were punking each other.
They were called Quaker cannons, which I kind of or Quaker guns, which I kind of
they were Quaker guns, which
find
you found
kind of funny. Because Quakers were pacifists.
Well, and that makes sense then.
Exactly.
It looks like funny. A gun, but it's not, and it can't kill you, but Quakers were actually kind of crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was funny. And then a few months later, she supposedly infiltrated another Confederate camp, this time as the female Irish peddler Bridget O'Shea.
That's a beautiful name. Right? That's going to be my fake name. Guys at bars are like, hey, babe, what's your name? Bridget O'Shea? See, I can't do Irish.
That was decent.
Okay.
Maybe it's the wine talking.
It was the same level of Irish as this wine was flavorful. It's no, it was an accent that was in the same room as an Irish person.
Irish adjacent.
Irish adjacent.
This time she returned with valuable military information as well as a really nice horse and a wound on her arm from being bitten by a horse when she was trying to retrieve medical supplies from the saddlebags on the horse. Different horse than she brought back, but I'm that's pretty funny.
I was going to take you, but fuck you.
You can go to the glue factory.
Karen, you're being kind of a bitch right now. I'm going to take Sally.
I'm sorry. All it makes me think of is, your horse bit me on the butt. Shout out really old movie, The Road to El Dorado.
Oh my God, that is such a good movie. There was one year, Kelley and I, along with a male friend of ours, did a gender-bent Halloween costume trio for Road to El Dorado.
Great.
I was Tulio.
Yeah, and I
you
was
were Miguel. And our friend was
Chell.
And it was beautiful.
Great. If you ever want to watch a movie, like a really old movie with a pretty decent storyline and pretty good music, El Dorado. It's animated.
You keep saying really old, and I'm like, no, it's not really old. And then I realize it's almost 20 years or so old. I'm like, fuck, we're old.
So in 1862, her regiment came under heavy fire during the Battle of Williamsburg, and she was caught in the thick of it, and at one point ended up picking up a musket and firing with her comrades, even though she was just, a male nurse. Male nurse.
Not just a nurse. Nurses are badasses.
Yeah, they are.
Male or female.
I work in a hospital, yes, I know. So she also acted as a stretcher bearer, ferrying the wounded from the field hour after hour and in the pouring rain. So that sounds fun.
It's gotta be such a nightmare of a job, just picking the wounded out of this field.
Oh yeah, because you gotta know they're
fire.
Screaming and crying, and now it's raining. The fighting might have stopped when it started raining, because they probably had really shitty visibility.
This is true, but that's just... Anything involving the Civil War is just epic levels of horrific and
it was
gory.
Terrible. So in the summer of 1682, saw her continuing her duties as a mail carrier, which often involved hundreds of miles of territory through inhabited by dangerous bushwhackers, which I think were basically just like guerrilla troops that would lie in wait to ambush people. She also saw action at Fair Oaks and Malvern Hill, where she acted as a hospital attendant, because that was her job. Oh, I thought you were, like, signaling me.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just scratching my ear.
You can cut this out, but I was like, what are you trying to say?
You were, like, looking at me really intently, so I started scratching my ear more slowly. Like, am I doing something
No, I thought
wrong?
you were trying to, like, be like, you're talking too quiet or too loud. I was like, what are you doing?
I'm tugging on my ear. Yeah. That's the signal.
Signal for what we don't know. So once the Peninsula campaign was ended, her and her unit went back to Washington, where supposedly she continued her work as a spy, going undercover as Cuff again, and then later as an African-American woman, like a laundry woman. Apparently, at that time, she was able to steal papers out of an officer's jacket, which she was able to bring back to her regiment.
Do you just think that the people who owned slaves were just so oblivious of who their slaves were?
They thought they were dumb.
Like,
yeah.
That they were just like, oh, you're like, I mean, what'd she use nitrate to dye her skin? That couldn't have been very believable.
I have no idea. I have no idea what silver nitrate does to someone's skin, but it probably isn't healthy.
But I'm just saying, like, I mean, they clearly were not even, like, acknowledging these people.
No, not at all. That's why we won.
Yeah. No, the Civil War was super dumb, and the Union won, and we're glad for that.
So in August of 1862, her unit took part in the Battle of the Second Manassas. So they missed the first one, but they got in on the second one.
They held the second one just for them.
Yeah, exactly. Acting as a courier during the battle, she was forced to ride a mule after her horse was killed, at which point she was thrown into a ditch. She broke her leg and suffered internal injuries.
Oh, no,
these injuries plagued her for the rest of her life and were one of the main reasons she would apply for war pension later in her life.
I'd love to hear how that all turned out.
Oh, it's later. So in December... It doesn't say a year, so I would assume it's the same year. So 1862, she served as an orderly directly under her commander. And they didn't see much action at that time, but they were constantly in the saddle. She was relaying messages from different parts of the troops, from the headquarters to the front lines and back again. And in the spring of 1863, she contracted malaria and requested a furlough to leave the army to get it treated. And she was denied. Not wanting to seek medical attention from the army.
Because... they're going to find out she's a woman.
For fear of discovery. She left her comrades in mid-April, never to return. Franklin Thompson was subsequently charged with desertion, obviously. Because by the time she recovered from the malaria, he had already been charged. So she couldn't, go back and be like, sorry guys, I was just,
So she sought outside help from the outside of the military help for her malaria.
So that she wouldn't be discovered as a woman.
But then they realized, hey, where the fuck is Frank Thompson?
Yep. And so he was charged with desertion, which is not good.
It's a big deal.
So after her recovery, she, was like, I don't need this disguise anymore. So she worked with the United States Christian Commission as a female nurse now. And she worked there from June 1863 until the end of the war. Afterwards, she wrote and published her memoirs, which she initially called Unsexed, or The Female Soldier.
I love that.
Which was later published under the titles of The Female Spy of the Union Army and The Nurse and Spy in the Union Army. I really wish they would have kept the original one.
Yeah, Unsexed is like
right?
immediately very captivating to me, and especially for the 1800s. Like,
right.
Actually,
that's probably why they changed it.
I was going to say, I'm not surprised they changed it because Unsexed sounds a little too like...
It has the word sex in it.
Yeah. No, babies just magically apparate out of nowhere. No one touches each other.
And so the first edition was actually published in 1864. And she donated all the profits of her books to various soldiers' aid groups, which is super nice. Oh,
God, good for her.
In 1867, she married Linus Seelye, something like that. Seelye. 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 That's what I'm going with. Which was a mechanic, and they had 3 children together. Unfortunately, they all died young of various ailments.
I couldn't tell if you said fortunately or unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
So I waited till you finished your sentence. I'm like, I'm going to assume she meant unfortunately.
This did lead them to adopting 2 sons, though.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yes. I was like, aw.
Good for them.
So in 1876, so quite a few years after the war, stop being stupid. Sorry. Google Drives is being obnoxious.
Technology. It's sexist.
Yes. So in 1876, she attended a reunion of her brigade, the 2nd Michigan, and she was actually very warmly received by her comrades. And later they would aid her in having the charge of desertion removed from her records.
Oh.
And they also would support her in her application for military pension. So in 1884, so several years later, Congress finally used a special act that would finally grant her a veteran's pension of $12 a month.
How much was that?
I don't know. I didn't look it up. I'm sorry, everyone.
I hope it was significant.
I'm sure it was decent.
Whenever I hear anything about veterans benefits or veterans pensions, I'm immediately like, okay, bring it on. I'm ready to be disappointed.
The bill to clear her name for desertion moved slowly, but it was eventually passed 2 years later in 1886.
That's good. That's amazing.
She was then she then could apply for back pay and bounty, which she would have earned if she hadn't been charged with desertion. That took another 2 years.
Yeah, the system is slow and shitty.
So at that point, that would be 1988. In
1888?
1888.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, like, that was me. I did say 1988.
It is super slow. It's slow as frozen shit.
She was dead by a lot.
Yeah.
So in 1897, so, 8 years later, she was admitted to the Grand Army of the Republic and was the only woman member. And then 1 year later, she died in her home in La Porte, Texas. And in 1901, she actually got the honor of being reburied with military honors at the Washington Cemetery in Houston.
Oh my God.
Which is a huge honor. And that was her life.
That was beautiful. Your stories were, the first one was a bummer because...
but a badass.
Because she was killed in action, but definitely a badass. Very uplifting. I definitely got Wonder Woman storming no man's land vibes from it. Second one... It was a struggle, but she was kind of given her dues.
Right.
And I'm really happy to say mine's not going to end on that bummer of a note. So
Good.
We're having an
that's
upbeat
how we're
episode.
Doing. Upbeat.
All right.
Especially after last episode, which is a little depressing.
Yeah, last episode came with a content warning, so we're trying to keep it up this week. All right. So my story is a little shorter than normal. Normally my stories are like 4+ pages. This is only 2. I know. But I was actually very surprised that there weren't a ton of resources on my lady. And I tried to look up different people's names and different statistics to beef it up. And
she didn't do extra credit like I did.
No.
I was like, oh, this is too short. I'll do a second one. And then she's like, oh, mine's only 2 pages. And I'm like, I can only do 1. And she's like, no, it's fine.
We're at a decent amount of time, so I'm not too terribly
We're providing you with quality content, people.
Yes, we work very hard to do this. All right, so this is actually the first woman I'm going to cover that was suggested by my mother.
Yay, shout out Emily's mom.
Go Gwen, empowered women, empower women.
Woo!
All right, so I will be covering Isabella Goodwin, New York City's first female police detective.
Oh.
We're getting a little crimey in
We're
here.
getting a little Veronica Marsy.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Great 90s show.
Early 2000s, right?
I don't know. You talk. I'll look it up.
Okay. But Kelley, funny note, Kelley and I, when we first met, we would talk about true crime a lot. And I remember the first time I ever got mad at Kelley was I was talking about Lizzie Borden, who was someone I researched deeply in middle school and high school. And she corrected me on a year or something. I was like, don't fucking even.
Step back, bitch.
Yes. But we're best friends and it's okay.
It was early 2000s. Emily was right.
Yes. I'm always right.
I can admit when I'm wrong.
Why do you question me?
Because I love you.
Aw, you're keeping me on my toes. Okay, so Isabella Goodwin was born in Greenwich Village, Manhattan on February 20th, 1865. So her and I are 126 years and 1 day apart.
What is with you choosing women that were, like, born similarly to you?
It is always a fucking accident, which leads me to believe it's the universe telling me I'm like spiritually related to these people. I'm channeling their energy through my body.
Okay.
And I love it. I feel their power. Growing up, she had dreams of being an opera singer.
It's a valid dream.
Yeah.
You have to, like, the qualifications to actually become an opera singer are so intense. Like, you have to have a certain vocal range. You have to be able to hold notes for a certain amount of time. Like, it is insane.
We actually saw an opera singer one year at the Minnesota State Fair talent show. I think she ended up winning the whole thing.
I do believe so.
Absolutely incredible. And the fact that she was performing at the Minnesota State Fair, one, I mean, I'm not trying to diminish her skill, but I'm like, wow, she is blowing my mind, and I bet she's not even like the cream of the crop.
Teenage category? I can't remember what age group she was in.
No, she
was
won
she in like
the
the
whole
free
thing.
group? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she was in the beautiful red dress.
Yeah, I remember her.
Oh my god, stunning. Anyway, being an opera singer didn't quite pan out, but it's okay. At 19, she married police officer John W. Goodwin in 1885. Together, they had 6 children, 4 of which survived.
Well, that's good. That's a pretty good ratio.
For the 1800s, that's, losing a child is tragic no matter how many you have, but that's a pretty good ratio there. Unfortunately, though, John died in 1896, leaving the 30-year-old Isabella a widow and single mother of 4.
That's insane.
Tough stuff. So in 1881, the NYPD began hiring women as police matrons or jail matrons to watch after female prisoners, child prisoners, deal with female crime victims, sex crime cases, and of course clean the cells because they're women.
Aside from like the cleaning part, I actually really like the name police matron.
It's kind of a cool name.
Right?
I think I found my next tattoo.
Police matron.
The fighting girlfriend and
one will be
matron.
on one arm, and then the other one will be on the other
That's
arm.
what I'm going to name my guns.
Yeah, there you go.
Ugh. Don't make me take out the fighting girlfriend and the police matron. Ugh. And I just flex and everyone laughs at me.
I wouldn't.
After the death of her husband, Isabella applied to become a police matron, and this actually wasn't uncommon for widows of police officers. Usually the station would help the widows get jobs with the police station, kind of taking care of their own, which good on them. After passing an exam, she was hired by Theodore Roosevelt, who was the police commissioner at the time.
Wow.
You might recognize him as our 26th president. I don't know, maybe he's like a little fringe.
I mean, he was a night at the museum.
Oh my god, Robin Williams as Theodore Roosevelt is the best thing in the world. No one can tell me
otherwise. He was in both nights at the museum.
Yes.
I don't know about the third one because I've never seen it, but he was in the first 2.
I think the third was the last movie that came out that Robin Williams was in.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't see it though.
We'll add it to our list.
Yes. The police matron position wasn't great, however. Isabella only made $1,000 a year, which is about $30,000 today. And actually, $30,000 is not a lot today, but I have a lot of friends who would do a lot of things for $30,000 a year.
Which is sad.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, there's no way you can support yourself, let alone 4 children on $30,000 a year.
Exactly. She was also only allowed 1 day off per month, which I'm assuming means 1 day total, not 1 day plus weekends.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. Just 1 day?
Yeah, because it wasn't like, oh, she had like 1 day of PTO. It was like, no, she had 1 day a month off. So she is working.
Back then, it was like, at least in most companies, it was, 6 to 7 hour work days. That's insane.
Yeah, so she is working.
Those poor children.
30 to 29 days a week for $30,000 a year, and she's got 4 children.
Those poor children.
Yeah, it's a struggle. Despite this, she served as a police matron for 15 years.
Oh.
During this time, she began going undercover to investigate crimes while her mother watched her 4 children. So the children are taken care of.
Women empower women, like, good on you, mom.
Yes, yes. She would pose as an ignorant society lady and expose fortune tellers, healers, and other what she called fakers. She would also infiltrate and expose women-only betting parlors, posing as a gambler. So she basically went on these undercover missions where the men could not.
I will 100% say that I thought you said women-only betting, BEDD, parlors, and then you said something about, like, betting, or you said something about gambling, and I was like, oh, BETT. I totally thought you were talking about, like, brothels.
Yes, the lesbian brothels of the late 1800s were a big deal back in New York City.
Oh, yeah, no, they would have gotten booted. I'm like, what is the word I'm looking? I'm over here making hand gestures. She's of, like getting around. Kicking out.
Then, in 1912... Isabella got her big break. In a bold midday bank robbery in downtown Manhattan, robbers dubbed the Taxi Bandits hijacked a cab full of bank workers, assaulted 2 clerks, and stole $25,000.
Jesus, that's almost her yearly salary.
Well, in today's money, it's almost her yearly salary.
Okay.
$25,000 in 1912
Okay, that's a lot of money.
In today's money, that is $651,484.54.
Yeah, I'd like that amount of money.
That's a nice-ass house right there.
I'm like, I could pay off my student loans. I could buy a nice car. And Emily's over there like, I could buy a really big fucking house.
Well, I only say that because at work the other day we were joking about just leaving it all and moving to California. And so we were looking up how much does a crap shack in California cost? And yeah, it's about $600,000. Yeah,
it's ridiculous, which is why we live in the freezing north.
Yep. The robbery gained national attention, and despite 60 detectives being assigned to the case, it went unsolved.
Ooh.
The end.
All right, let's go.
The NYPD was at a distinct advantage against criminals using cars at the time for a quick getaway, as they didn't even have police cars yet. Yeah. So we think of like a midday bank heist not being a really big deal. You know, there are cameras everywhere, there's people everywhere, but back then the NYPD didn't even have cars to chase people down. They should just
steal their own taxis. Like, sir, I need your taxi.
Get the fuck out of the taxi. I gotta chase some
others.
Like
you see in movies when they're like, I need to commandeer your car, move.
Yes. As concerns about copycat crimes and frustration mounted, the sheriff's office actually proposed arming civilians so they could fight crime on their own, Batman style.
Vigilantes everywhere, bitches.
Loving it. Eventually, the police got a lead about one of the suspected robbers, gangster Eddie the Boob Kinsman.
I suppose the boob used to... Okay, actually, being a boob used to be an insult. Like...
Isn't it still an insult? You don't call someone a boob and go, oh yeah, that's cool. That's a cool nickname.
Besides our friend Drew, who still calls people a boob.
It's not a commonly used insult, but it's still an insult.
Like, when I first heard him say it a few weeks ago, he was just like, ya boob. And I'm like, wait, people still say that?
Well, Drew still says that. Drew was the chell in our group, so we love the fuck out of him. So, our gangster friend will henceforth be known as the boob exclusively, because you don't get a nickname like that and not let me use it. The Boob had been frequenting a local sketch-tastic boarding house to visit his girlfriend, Swede Annie.
Sweet. That is definitely a hooker name.
Everyone...
Like Swede, S-W-E-D-E.
S-W-E-D-E. So I'm going
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, I thought you said S-W-E-E-D.
No, I said E-D-E.
I'm too drunk to process this.
Swede Annie.
See, I thought it was like an ethnically charged nickname, like she's Swedish.
I mean, I
Swede
assume
Annie,
so too, but I also assume that she's a hooker.
as opposed to Polish Annie or Czech Annie. Like,
But
there's a lot of Annies.
I'm still assuming it's a hooker name.
Well, she's constantly referred to as his girlfriend, so maybe.
Just continue.
Anyway, that's where Isabella came in. Isabella was asked to pose as a maid at the boarding house and collect evidence that implicated the boob in the heist. Dressed in rags and...
The boob in the...
We're gonna catch this boob. So help me God, this boob will pay for his crimes against humanity. Dressed in rags and speaking with an Irish accent, Isabella began her mission. There's a lot of Irish accents.
You want to try it again?
No, I won't.
Okay.
I'm going to save everyone that embarrassment. Isabella would later recall eating scraps and sleeping in, quote, a dark, wretched little hole, unquote. Between her maid duties, because she was legit working as a maid.
You have to. When you're undercover, like, you can't just, like, half-ass it.
Yeah, for, like, I don't remember if it was $6 a day or $6 a week. $6 a day
I hope she was
sounds
still getting,
like too much.
I hope she was still getting her $30,000 a year on the side from the police.
Oh, no, that's why they had her go undercover all the time. Like, well, we're going to suspend your cop pay and let you take the shitty maid
$6
pay.
a week. Good job.
Yes. Congratulations.
Have fun.
I'm making that up. I don't know if that was right. So between her maid duties, she would listen to conversations through walls and door holes and get close to the thieves' girlfriends to gather intel. Ooh, very, very snazzy. Some of the information she gathered included signs of the boob's sudden wealth, such as a shopkeeper saying the boob was, quote, shedding money like a molting canary.
Ooh.
What a very 1800s way to say someone is making it rain.
Right. Because that's how we say it now. We're making it rain.
Oh, bitch is making it rain like there's a drought. No, he's shedding money like a molting canary. That's cute.
Yeah. No, I don't like the image of a boob. A boob molting.
He's a blue-footed booby molting money like a shedding canary. Are we the only ones that think this is funny?
I hope not.
When the boob's girlfriend, Swede Annie, confessed to Isabella that, quote, Eddie the boob turned the trick all right. Yes, even his fucking girlfriend called him the boob.
I really want to know his origin story.
I looked him up. Okay, I literally Googled Eddie the Boob Kinsman, and I found an article about men suing a pharmaceutical company for a medication that made them grow boobs. That was it.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't click on the link.
Dang it, Emily.
I mean, it was also while we were watching Veronica Mars, so I was
You're like, oh, maybe
elsewhere.
I should Google this guy.
Well, because I was thinking about, because I was looking at all these places to beef up this story. I was like, oh, maybe I should Google him. Maybe he's a big deal. Because this case made national headlines, and
Apparently,
I couldn't find shit.
Yeah. They don't want people to know about the boob.
It was just 1800s headlines. It's like, oh, no one cares.
No one cares about the boob.
So after this confession, the police were finally able to make arrests.
Yay.
After her successful undercover operation, Isabella was promoted to the rank of detective. Get it, girl?
Heck yeah.
A few years later, Isabella moved to Brooklyn where she met Oscar A. Seaholm, a handsome singer 30 years her junior.
Oh.
In 1921, she put a ring on it.
Oh.
Get it? Through the 1920s, Isabella oversaw the NYPD's new Women's Bureau, which handled cases involving sex workers, runaways, truants, and victims of domestic violence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job.
I'm shocked they even thought those were things back in the 1920s.
Like, some of them I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. The other ones I'm like, really? That was a thing?
Yeah. In 1924, Isabella worked with prosecutors to investigate fraudulent medical practices and was instrumental in securing several high-profile arrests. The same year, she retired after a 30-year career with the NYPD.
Heck yeah, get it.
At 78 years old, Isabella died of colon cancer on
Aww.
October 26, 1943. She was buried in Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn under the name Isabella Seaholm, although I found records claiming she had kept her last name Goodwin during her life, despite having married Seaholm. So, I mean...
mixed records.
Take that as you will. Also, her grave is incorrectly indicates her year of birth as 1871, despite census records and a bunch of other resources indicating her original birth year as 1865.
You know, they just wanted her to look younger.
Yeah, I'm sure she requested that. Her last dying wish.
Make me 6 years younger.
Yes.
Please. Because then he's only 24 years her junior, not 30.
Yeah. I mean, if he's of age and, like... you do you. You're consenting adults.
Or you do him, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, you do each other consensually and with respect and listen to each other. Her legacy. Today, there are over 6,570 women working in the NYPD out of 36,500 members, making up approximately 18%.
Wow.
They include 781 detectives, 753 sergeants, and 200 lieutenants, which, in my opinion, 18% is not enough, but hopefully trending in the right direction.
Well, and it might just be that I feel like that's a lot of women don't necessarily want that job, but the ones that do are awesome and badass.
Or they're not encouraged
Yeah.
in those kinds of things.
Like women in science, which is bullshit. If you want to do
STEM.
science, do science.
Hey, guys, I can't do math, but that's not because I'm a woman. It's because I suck at math and I have a learning disability. Other women can do math and they're amazing. A recent TV show, The Alienist, based on Caleb Carr's 1994 novel of the same name, features a character, Sarah Howard, played by Dakota Fanning, who I've always been a fan of, who is heavily based on Isabella. So he actually found out about her while looking through some like old NYPD records.
That's super cool.
The Fearless Mrs. Goodwin, How New York's First Female Police Detective Cracked the Crime of the Century by Elizabeth Mitchell was written and is available on Amazon. I did not buy it because I did not have enough time, and these are shallow dives. So,
For now.
give it a read. I looked everywhere for this gal, and I really couldn't find any more information than I shared. I found some conflicting years and dates and things like that, but I have to imagine there's got to be more information about New York City's first female police detective, especially since she was working on such a high-profile case that they would not have cracked without her.
I mean, maybe it's a lot of, like, old records that are, like, microfilm in, like, New York libraries that are not on the internet.
This is true. I mean, I'm referring to a Hulu thing I've been seeing for the past 2 weeks, but you know, The Act on Hulu?
No,
based
I don't have
on
Hulu.
Oh my God, get Hulu. But there's a famous case about Gypsy Rose.
Oh, I want to watch. We need to watch that.
You should come
Did
over.
you already
and we'll
watch it?
I haven't because I need to
we should watch it
with-
together. Yes,
But basically, this
I do know about this.
abusive mother with Munchausen's by proxy was faking her daughter's significant illness, and part of what allowed her to do that was her medical records had been lost in Katrina, and she just bounced from doctor to doctor. So it's like, even, I mean, this was recent. This was in the last decade.
To the point where Gypsy Rose didn't even know how old she was.
Oh, yeah, because her mother kept lying. Oh, she's 13. 3 years later, she's still 13.
I was going to say, there's a part in the commercial, so I don't feel like this is a spoiler, that, they're going to a doctor, and she says, this is Gypsy Rose, my whatever age daughter, and Gypsy goes, oh, I thought I was this age, and she goes, shh, Gypsy, like, she like shushes her.
But yeah, I mean, records back in the 1800s were super sketchy, and they're actually still pretty sketchy today in some cases. So maybe that explains it. Regardless, Isabella Goodwin, certified badass, whining about Herstory, stamp of badassery. So good for her.
Yeah. are you done?
I'm done. I'm raising my hands.
So before we go into our thanks, although this is kind of part of at least my thanks, I would like to give a shout out to Babe, Biggie, and Bear, my knitting sister who makes amazing things. You should totally go check out her Etsy shop.
She does hats, she does scarves, she does baby stuff.
She totally just crocheted herself a pair of pants that actually look amazing.
If you told me, oh, hey, I have crocheted pants, I'd be like, oh, well, good luck with that. Right. Hers actually look incredible.
But she gave us a shout out on her Instagram the other day, so I just wanted to give her a shout out on the air.
She's got really great stuff. She's got an Etsy. Go check her out. She's great for gifts, or, you know, if you live somewhere where it's cold all the goddamn time, like in Minnesota, she's got great shit.
Hell yeah.
That's Babe and Biggie Bear.
Babe, Biggie, and Bear.
Oh, fuck. Babe, Biggie, and Bear. I was not prepared for this shout out.
She's like, oh God.
I didn't do
Emily,
my homework.
What are you thankful for?
You know what's crazy is when I got here, I had all these things that I was super thankful for, and now they're all blanking on me.
It's the wine.
It's the wine. It just makes me forget everything except for wine. One, I'm really thankful for my boyfriend, Jared. He's been incredibly supportive while we've been doing this podcast. And especially taking care of things around the house, you know. Oh, yeah, you go do you, hon.
Aww.
I got this. And so I'm very thankful for that, and I want to give him a shout out. And especially us talking about military women and the call to serve makes me think of him. He is a veteran, and I'm very thankful for his service, and especially for just him being around and being so wonderful to me. So shout out to Jared. I'm very thankful for him.
I feel like now I have to be thankful for my husband.
I mean, I think we're always thankful for our significant others.
But I am thankful for him because, you know, unlike, was it last episode or 2 episodes ago with our Navi interruption at the door?
Yep.
I would like to thank him for watching the puglets, why we record and keeping them out of trouble and keeping them from annoying us. So thanks, Justin.
You know what's funny is I know some podcasters who record with their pets in the room.
Oh, God, maybe Atari, except you'd hear in the background the entire time.
Those brachycephalic babes.
So and Dory would be fine, but you can't have Dory and Atari on opposite sides of a door from one another.
They love each other.
They do. They want to be together, but they get angry when they're not.
They're little salt and pepper pugs.
And Navi's just a no.
Navi.
It would be like every 2 seconds, Navi, don't eat that. Navi, don't do that. Navi. Navi.
This would turn into the No Navi podcast.
Yeah. So be thankful. Be thankful for my husband watching the puglets. My own grumble.
Aw. There are a laundry basket full of cheese up for adoption at the local shelter.
Chi as in Chihuahua,
yeah,
not cheese as in CHEESE, the delicious food.
I was thinking about adopting a laundry basket full of Swiss cheese because it just really needs a good home in my belly.
In my belly.
But no, there's 4 Chihuahuas up for adoption at the local Humane Society, and I tried to convince Jared to adopt them so I could have a herd of cheese because I have 1 Chi already, I have a pit bull, and then I would have 4 more cheese.
A group of cheese is called.
Jesus Christ, because that's what people shout when they come at you.
You're like, oh God.
And Jared said no, but I think it's just because he's afraid of my power.
The chi power?
Yes, all of the chi-ness.
Okay.
All right, well, I think that's it for us. Please hit us up on Instagram at WAHpod, Facebook at Whining About Herstory, and email us about the incredible women in your life at whiningaboutherstory@gmail.com. I know my mother's been incredibly supportive by sending me women every week to cover. I know Kelley's mom has been incredibly supportive. Our other friend Emily has been incredibly supportive by sharing women with us. We want to hear about the women you want us to cover and just the women in your life who may never get a shout out on a podcast.
Yeah, we'll shout them out.
We will shout them the fuck out. To the sun!
Unless they don't like vulgar language, at which point you'd have to skip our entire episode just to the shout out portion.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Indicate in your email if you want a clean shout out or a natural shout out.
Yeah. Mix it up a little.
Well, thank you so much for listening. This has been Whining About Herstory. I'm Emily.
I'm Kelley.
And have an empowered day.
Bye.
Bye.